I need to get some
Thank
neons.
you.
It'd be better than the homemade slime smudges and cat hair.
You know
All right,
what?
guys,
Have you guys
we
seen
are-
those? Have you guys seen those backgrounds you can use?
The
on
green
Zoom?
screens.
I guess, yeah.
Oh,
but
those
my-
are fun.
Oh, we can
I-
we are
apparently
live.
We're
apparently my
live.
computer is too old and I can't use those things. So this is my actual bedroom
Oh, nice.
office. I'm sorry, it's my office.
Yeah, I'm in my living room. I mean, office. Studio. I'm in my studio.
There you go.
We're set to go, Awaken.
Oh, we going?
Yep.
Yeah, we're good now.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Gamer's Realm episode number 42. I'm Awaken Bacon, and we are here with Mr. Switch,
Going on, guys.
RX,
How you guys
QA
doing?
Ninja,
Hello, everyone.
CHICHUKI is here.
Hey, what's going on?
And we have a holiday special before the holiday special today. We have the star of radio, television, the Mr. Larry Kenney. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. I'm here with you. That's what's happening tonight, and I'm loving it so far.
Good. We're glad you're here. So you are known for Lino from the Thundercats.
Yeah.
That's kind of been that's where you're at. But you've done a lot of stuff.
Mm,
You started as a radio DJ at 15 years old.
yeah.
How did that
12
happen?
years ago.
12 years
12
ago when you were
years
15
ago.
years old. You started as a radio DJ and,
Yeah, I
and
did.
continued as a radio DJ in several areas. But initially, your first. How does one become a radio DJ at 15?
Well, these days, I don't know how you do that, but back then, we're talking in 1963, when everything was in black and white, especially radio. I was in high school, my sophomore year of high school. It's a long story, but we actually had a radio class in our high school. Small town in Illinois, about halfway between Chicago and St. Louis, a town called Pekin, Illinois. And for some reason, we had a radio class. We even had a radio studio that at the time was state of the art radio studio. And to this day, I look back on it and I think, how did that happen? That,
Wow.
it was a nice little town. It was like 30,000 people, but it was unheard of to have your own. And we actually did a radio show every day for 10 minutes during lunch hour. And that's how I got started. I started doing there were like 5 of us who would do the show. One would be the announcer. One would read the school news. One would read the menu for the day. So a mom would know not to cook for dinner. It was like that. And then somebody would do an interview, right? And I got to the point after many, many weeks that I was the only one showing up. Maybe me and some other guy or gal show up. So it got to the point where I would do the announcer as Larry Kenney, and then I would read the sports as Ken Lawrence, and then I would use another name because it's radio. They don't know.
Would you use different voices for the different people?
Not
that you
really,
put-
slightly. Yeah, I would kind of moderate it a little bit. Made one guy Southern, and all that. But I couldn't do cartoon voices and stuff like that, which I was doing at the time. I mean, I grew up doing cartoon voices and impressions of people I saw on TV from a very young age. And one day, a guy who ran the station across the river in Peoria, the big town, at the big radio station, heard me and asked me to come work for him. And I did. And I was 2 weeks before my 16th birthday, I recall. And I auditioned for this show he had on the weekends, and I got it that day. So that's when it started. And I worked there for 5 years while I went to college. And then I moved on to, Fort Wayne, Indiana, then Cleveland, Chicago, and then New York. I've been in New York for about 45 years. So that's my radio career. Well, and then I worked with Imus during that time. You guys ever heard of Imus in the Morning?
Imus in the Morning. I
Yes.
started him about
Yeah.
1973, but you were with the show until about 07? 2007?
You're freaking me out here, man. You've done your homework, haven't you?
A little bit.
That's exactly right. It was actually till 08, but February of 08. So yeah. I started with Don in 73 and worked with him for a year before I ever met him. At that time, I was in Chicago doing a morning radio show, and he was in New York doing at WNBC, doing his radio show. He had worked in Cleveland when I was in Cleveland. Apparently was impressed with all the voices I did on the air, because as I told you, I always had done character voices and cartoon voices when I was a kid. Well, I translated that to the radio. I always had characters would pop in. You had a sound effect of the door opening, and hey, Larry, how you doing? And I would talk. So one day, Imus called me from New York and said, "I loved your show in Cleveland, and would you do some stuff on my show? We could tape it every day, And then I said, "Yeah, sure." So for an entire year, I was in Chicago, and he was in New York, and we both had news breaks on the hour. And so while that was going on, he would call me on the hotline in the production studio, and he would say, "Okay, let's do Nixon today, or Kissinger or something," and we would ad lib like a 2.5, 3 minute bit. And we did that for a year, and I finally then got a job in New York, and that was the first time I met him. And then we went on for another 35 years doing working together like that.
So previous to that, it was just recordings, or doing it from, you didn't actually live in New York? And
no, I was in Chicago. Yeah.
Cool. I'll have really one more question I want to, throw at you. The 80s was a huge time for cartoons and voiceovers. You had huge competition. You had Transformers, G.I. Joe, Inspector Gadget, Dungeons and Dragons, like huge properties.
The titles.
Yeah.
Teenage Mutant
All
Ninja Turtles.
It was a little later, but yeah, it was
like
84,
89.
No, the cartoon didn't come out till 88 or 89. They had the miniseries. So
yeah.
And it was also a time where,
you know what? Excuse me, I'm sorry, but I knew you guys were going to know the exact date of everything. And I admire, when I say you guys, I mean, you're obviously fans of the genre, right?
Oh,
Cartoon.
Absolutely.
You grew up in the 80s and stuff. So that's what I mean when I say you guys. I don't mean like, people like you. You know what I'm saying? I talk to a lot of people like you guys doing podcasts, and you're really into it. And sometimes I'm embarrassed because, somebody will say to me, "Well, remember in episode 114?" I go, "Oh, Jesus, no." They'll say, "Here's what happened. Lion-O came through Lion-O was about to go through a door, had his sword in his right hand.
Yeah.
He came through the door. The sword was in his left hand. What was up with that?" And I go,
it was just before he fought the mutants.
Look at that time. I really
so great.
But a lot of voiceover work for that time, especially with shows that came over like Voltron. It was obviously from Japan, and you didn't work on any of those, but according to, and I don't know if you know this or not, but Ranker.com's worth watching website of cartoons from the 80s has Thundercats ranked at number 1.
No kidding.
Nice.
A huge list. Number 1.
All right.
But you weren't just Lion-O. You were and coming from Kentucky, this is close to my heart. You played Bluegrass from the Silverhawks, which I love.
Sure
the Silverhawks.
did. Yeah, I did, kid.
Hey. And it was awesome. His action figure was my favorite. He came with the guitar and had the hat. It was, Dolph from Tiger Sharks.
That's right.
And,
that's right. That was Dolph.
And then it came back around because now with Thundercats Roar, which I think is still on. Is it on or is no? Maybe.
I think it's still going. You
got to go full circle and play Jaga.
Yeah,
the character from the original one that was the elder that that was that's super cool, right?
It is super cool. I was really excited and happy when in 2011 Warner Brothers, who had bought the rights to to all those shows at the time, announced, first they announced they were going to do a full-length movie. Animated movie, what do you call it? Computer generated CG.
Yeah, CG. I would love that.
Of Thundercats. And then that was very exciting. And then a few months later, they shelved that idea and decided and announced a new Thundercats animated TV series. And they invited me to be Lion-O's father, Claudius, on that. And I really thought that was cool because what they were doing was, that was an homage, I think, to the original, to the fans and the people who produced the original series to say, and I'll tell you this, before I agreed to do it, I had a long talk with the people involved, Ken Norton, head writer, and other people at Warner Brothers. And I could tell immediately that they were all super Thundercats fans from when they were kids. And they all, to a man, said, we wouldn't sign on with it if they were going to make it, if they were going to denigrate the legacy of the original Thundercats, what I mean? Which is very important to me. Very important to me.
They made it look so good.
And I thought it was a great series. I know the 2011 reboot, right?
Yeah. And
I thought it would last a long time.
Did they get 2 seasons? Was it 2 seasons? I think.
I think they only got one.
I only got one. That's the
One is maybe a part.
This was the
One
first
and a
reboot
few
when they first rebooted the show, right?
Yeah, in 2000.
Yeah, I think I'd say probably like they got one season. They got one season.
That's just the Cartoon Network's that's a Cartoon Network thing because they did the same thing with He-Man Masters of the Universe.
They did. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I know, and I can't say too much because I still like to work, but the word I got from my friends at Warner Brothers after it was canceled, the 2011 reboot was canceled, is that the ratings were very good on the Cartoon Network, but the toy sales were not what they had expected, and that unfortunately is the driving engine of a lot of animation today. If you don't sell toys, you don't stay on the air.
Yeah, and that was the way it was back in the 80s too, because they would even, I've read articles about how the toy line came out first and they were like, well, we're going to make a cartoon based on this. So they were basically 20-minute commercials for the toys.
Yeah.
But, hey, you got to make money.
Sure.
Got to make money. Well, that's super cool. That's super cool.
Well, it's like I've been involved in serial. I've been Count Chocula for 40 years, and I've been
amazing.
Really?
Wow.
Oh.
You guys didn't know that? Come on.
You didn't know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah.
It's in the.
You guys didn't know that, right?
I didn't know that one.
Oh yeah.
That's the Count
I
Chocula.
didn't
That's
know
amazing.
Yeah.
I did.
And so it's like, you know what? It's a business, and we all know that. You hate to see it applied and be the reason for something that you love being canceled.
Yeah.
In the end, it's business. It's like if it's not making somebody money, the people who are putting out the money, and lots of it, So I hate to talk about it as a business too.
I'm sure the sales of Count Chocula went through the roof when you started.
People realize, hey, that's Lion-O doing that. All right, cool. I'm gonna buy this chocolate.
Well, no, actually, I started doing.
On the bottom left, guys, there he is, right there.
Oh yeah.
I didn't know what that was. My eyes were up to that corner of the screen. I was like, who is that? I can't see it.
Who is that?
You mentioned it. I'm like, oh, that's okay. So now I see as Count Chocula.
Count Chocula, cereal is coming your way. How about the monster for breakfast today?
Yeah. See, now
That's
hearing it,
so
it's like,
great.
okay, yeah.
It's only commercial.
Literally my childhood right there. That's so great.
I think it's the only commercial I've ever done that I got to sing in, and for good reason.
Oh wow.
You did a good
So
job.
yeah, I started doing the counts in '78, I think. And I started doing Sonny. Sonny the Cocoa Puffs bird. I won't go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Yahoo!
That's so great.
Oh man.
I did not know the Sunny thing until yesterday.
Yeah.
I have to say that. I just found that out. But I could talk to you. I could. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's all.
All right. I could, well, like I said, I could talk to you for the full hour here, but I'm sure we have other people that have many, many questions. So, Kotetsu, what questions you got?
Yes, I do have one, and it was one that stuck out to me. Now I know you've played you've done the legendary Lino, and you came back for the other series to play other characters that somehow fall in line with the character you played before, which is really cool. The one now I recently got into Red Dead Redemption 2, and that game has been awesome. And I saw that you played a character named JB, and I think he's only accessible in the online version of the game. So how did you come to play that role, and how was it different from any of the other roles you've played before?
Good questions. I came to play it the same way you come to play other things in this business. You go audition, you audition for everything, and you have an agent. If you're working in New York, Chicago, or LA, you have to have an agent, you know, and that's where the majority of all the major work is done, you know, national commercials and animated shows and stuff. So one day my agent called me back in, we're talking about the Thundercats now, or
we're talking about the Red Dead Redemption 2 character.
oh, that's right. That was much more
For the
recent. You know,
PC,
that was
I think, yeah.
five years ago, I guess, something. But it's the same as with anything, with the commercials or games, video games or whatever. The company will call your agent and say, we'd like to have so and so come and either come and audition to play this part, or we've heard his work, we like him. That was the case in this one. We'd like to put Larry Kenney to come and be a character on this show. So I said, yeah, sure. And then you show up at the thing, and that's how you get it. You know, with commercials, you go on an audition, and if you get it, you'll hear within 2 or 3 days, and it'll be recorded in a week or so. If you don't get it, you just never hear back from them. You know, so. But now I love the second part of your question, which was, please remind me.
Oh, it was
the difference
between playing JB and all the other characters you voiced before.
The difference between that and between doing that and the difference is on the TV commercials. Pardon me, Count Chocula, Cocoa Puffs, stuff like that. You're in a studio, you know, with a glass. You see it in the movies and stuff, and the director's on the other side saying, no, do it again. And that's the way I've been doing that for almost 50 years now, you know, and I love it. That's how we work. You go into and like with Thundercats and Silverhawks and all those, you'd be in the studio with 5 other people, a big arc of microphones, you know, and we'd always work together. These days in our business, and I don't know why, you're always alone. You're in a little booth by yourself. And the director, half the time, is not even there. He's in California, and you're hearing him on your headset. You know, it's actors don't like it as much. I like actors, but the difference for me was when I did Red Dead Redemption, it was incredible. I walk in, they put you in a suit, you know, a spandex suit, little contact points all over.
The motion capture.
That's exact. Thank you.
Yeah, the motion capture. Yeah,
very good. That's right. It's called mocap, motion capture. And I think a lot of people who are watching probably have seen the Avatar thing, and it's been on. There have been videos on TV a lot about here's how that stuff is done, you know, with the blue background and all that. So and it was different from any other acting I've done. I've done lots of acting too. I've done some. Well, I was a game show host on television for 3 years in New York. I did soap operas, you know, a couple of movies. So I knew acting, but this was a whole other thing. You walk in, the stage is an old aircraft hangar. It was Grumman. It's out on Long Island. It's an old Grumman. It's where they made some of the spaceships. This actual room, you know, is where they made it. Enormous. And there are thousands of cameras in the ceilings, on the walls. Everywhere you look, there are little cameras pointed at you. Unlike 3 or 4 cameras when you're on a movie or you're, you know, and lights and things. And you're dressed in a spandex suit with these little patches on all over it. You're wearing a helmet that has a bar that comes out like this, and then down, there's a light shining in your face, and that's your microphone. And you have to act with that on. It's a whole different experience. And the stage itself, there are, like let's say if it's a scene where, like in Red Dead Redemption 2, where I'm at my trading post, right? If you played the game, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you walk out on stage and all it is there's a barrel with a fake tail hanging out the back of it and a saddle on it. That's a horse. You know, that's the horse. When you play the game, you see the horse. And I got to climb up on my horse, you know, and then you ride off into the sunset. But in the room, it's just a barrel with a saddle on it. You know?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And like like let's say the first time I worked there, I was supposed to be at a big fire pit, you know, stirring the cauldron with the soup I was going to feed these assholes tonight. Oh, pardon me. And but all it was a couple of sticks, and there wasn't even a pot there. It was just. But my point is, the difference is you act with actually nothing to work with sometimes, you know, which is very challenging, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Right.
I'm sorry if that was long-winded. It's so hard to explain to people how cool it is when you're there, you know?
No, honestly, the more detailed, the more I can like imagine just everything you're saying. I've seen some footage of mocap before, and it looks really cool. And you're right, you know, a lot of it is more of your imagination. So if there's like a chair with something there, you got to kind of imagine, or like a table with like like this, you know, phone and you have to kind of imagine yourself kind of. And I think sometimes sometimes have the prop, but most of the time you got to kind of imagine yourself doing this, or you know, doing some kind of motion or obstacle you got to do during the mocap. But but that's
you know
really
what?
Cool.
Yeah, it is. And you just reminded me of something. At first, it's tough to get used to that there's nothing really there that you're supposed to be picking up and all that. But I'm thinking, when I was a kid, I loved playing cowboys and Indians, right? You got the guns. And this is what you're doing. You're out there just, you know, hey, but there's nothing there. So it kind of took me back to that make-believe. Remember how much fun that was to, you know, where'd you get that horse? Right. Well, he was standing behind the barn. Right? You know, you make up stuff.
My 12-year-old couldn't even begin to use imagination in that way, you know.
Exactly.
Product of the generation. But it's hard to believe, you know, it's hard to imagine when you're doing mocap, you know, what's going on around you, especially when you're talking about like creatures. Like, did you ever see that video of Benedict Cumberbatch doing Smaug, or what, the dragon from The Hobbit? It's like that's what he was doing, you know, and then he had to become a dragon. It's crazy. I can't even imagine what you guys are going through during that time.
It's an entirely different way to act, to act in a movie or whatever, you know. I mean, it's just well, something that was unimaginable 10, 15, 20 years ago. You know, that you'll go in this room and you'll have this suit on. And the funny thing is, while I'm in the room, while we're in there recording stuff, there are also monitors all around. And I can look up at the monitor and see myself, well, my character, in costume, wearing his hat, on his horse, but it's me. I can wave and it waves back at me. You know what I'm saying? Is that crazy?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's actually
that's my movement.
Question. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
Does that help you like imagine with your character? Does that help you a little bit kind of imagine the you know, the personality and the voice for the character if you kind of see the model and you're moving and it's moving with you? Does that help the process of building the character itself, you know, when you're acting?
You know, I think it does, but I hadn't ever thought of that before. I think you can. I remember the very first day, I noticed, I can't remember exactly what it was, but there was something about when I glanced up, they were playing back. They were playing a take back of me getting on the horse, let's say, or something. And I noticed something that I thought would be more realistic, given the shot, the angle, all this kind of stuff. If I did, what did I do? Something about, when the horse took off, if I went like that, when you in reality, there was no reason to do that because I'm sitting on a barrel, but yeah, so that's a good point. Once you look at the last take, it would look a lot better, man, if I went like that, So it does help you. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Thank you. Hopefully I didn't take up too much anybody's time.
No, listen, I do so many of these, of podcasts and things like this, and I love them. I love the fans and the people like you who are so interested in it. But a lot of times it's the same questions,
Really?
Yeah, which is fine. That's fine. I mean, people have never heard the answer to that. Not everybody in the world is going to see me tonight answering these questions, right? So they're going to ask the same questions that I've been asked a million times. But that's fine. I don't mind answering them. But it does really please me when people ask questions like you guys are asking tonight that nobody's ever asked me.
Yeah, we just love hearing the answers.
Exactly.
Some of the questions have to, I'm sure are recycled, but it's like if we could ask something, new or different, and get the new answer, it's like,
sure,
it's magic. It's magic.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
Okay, cool. Let's see if Chichuki has anything to say about this.
I have a couple of questions. First off, Larry, thanks for taking the time out to meet with us tonight. Do you have any advice for someone breaking into the voice acting industry now?
That's a good question.
It is a good question, and all my career I've been asked it, and for decades my answer was, I suggest you if you're talking about getting into the voiceover business, I've always said take classes. Find there are places in your area that will, and especially since the advent of a computer and the internet, you can Google. If you live in Columbus, Ohio, I tell them Google acting lessons, voice acting lessons, voice lessons, stuff like. First of all, I tell people if it's a young person who may be still in high school or whatever, and I get a lot of those asking me I tell them the first thing for you is stay in school, take all the speech classes you can take, whatever they offer these days. And of course, I was in high school 55 years ago, so I don't know what's going on now. But I would imagine, hopefully, they still teach public speaking. Maybe maybe you can join the debate class or whatever. Maybe you can be the announcer at your high school's football games. Fourth down, anything that gets you in the arena of being a speaker, what I mean, and act in the plays, try out for all the plays you can, so that was always my advice for years. And then I would say, find now Google, let's say, if you're in Columbus, voice acting lessons, voiceover lessons, and I would tell them, here's what you look for. A place that's going to tell you, okay, it'll be a 6-week course, 2-3 hour classes a week, for whatever. They'll lay it all out for you. But I tell them, make sure that you select one that guarantees you that during the course of your course over the weeks, they will be bringing in advertising people from that area, agents from that area. So you will be able to network a little bit with these people. They will know who you are when you've completed the course and you go try to get a job. They'll have a better chance of them saying, I remember I heard you, like that. And also a place that will guarantees you that when you leave the course, when you finish, you'll come away with what we used to call a demo reel-to-reel tape. Remember that, kids?
Yeah. That was all about it.
I've seen those. I think.
Yeah, tape. What's that? Yeah, my dad had an 8-track back in the day, reel-to-reel.
Yeah. At the museum, right? At the museum.
At the museum.
Yeah. So now it's a CD probably. that you can take, that they help you make along the way. Because before you can get an agent, you're going to need you need to let the agent hear what you can do, you know. And so what everybody needs is a reel. It's about, or the CD is about 2.5 minutes long, that shows your range. What kind of dialects can you do? Can you do a hard, you know, G.I. Joe, or can you do Saturday? It's going to be a great day at the zoo, you know, stuff like that. It shows your dynamic range. But you know what? I can't, beyond that today, I realize that that's not probably the best answer to tell people, because there's so much going on now with the internet, and you can even go on the internet and submit auditions to these companies that will pay you $50 to do a commercial or something like that, you know, with no agent involved, no union, you're not involved in a union, stuff like that. So it's a whole different world, really. But I still think that my basic information is good to know.
Nice. That's very helpful. I'm actually going to check that stuff out. And then my other question is, what is something that you know now that you wish you knew when you first started?
Never squat with your spurs on.
I
wish I'd known that.
This is great.
You mean obviously about the business?
Yes.
Well, see, I got so started so early in the business that by the time I got to the big cities, you know, Chicago and New York, I was only 19. Well, I was 23, 25, and everything. But I'd gone through all the stuff that most people get into this business, sorry, start when they're 25, 20, you know, when they've decided they finally drop out of school or whatever. There's not a lot of people who had the good fortune to be able to start when they were 15 years old. So I've got 10 years in the business, you know, so not much has surprised me along the way. I would say the biggest surprise is that when you're young, and I started in a very small radio station, I loved it and everything, but I dreamed about getting to New York, Chicago, LA, where it must be so much more fun, so much more. The greatest time I ever had in radio was a 2-year stint I did in Fort Wayne, Indiana at WOWO, 50,000 watt station. It was the greatest station, greatest people. I had more fun. They promoted the station. We were always, every weekend we were out at a booth, you know, at a county fair, meeting the listeners, you know.
Oh, nice.
And after that, nobody did that anymore. I mean, when's the last time you went someplace and the local radio station was there, not just blasting music, but, you know, doing it, just interviewing people, doing a radio show there, you know. So I I think that answers your question, I hope.
Oh yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Super cool. Kotetsu was talking about your video game voiceovers, and I just wanted to bring up this one because I love it, but it's the bane of my existence. Alan Wake's American Nightmare.
Oh, yes.
That game, I love playing it, but I'm so bad at it.
Are you?
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, it is what it is. You did some voice work on that.
Yeah, I think I was a guy on the radio, wasn't I? Like an all-night talk show host. I think he was a kind of a Southern, like here talking to truckers all night.
Oh, that's right.
That's it.
That's right. Wasn't it? I think like you narrated. Didn't you narrate some of the things that were happening in the game? That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there was something about this girl who she didn't know the boy, but she gave him a chance and all that. Yeah, I do remember saying it was kind of a philosophical musing by the guy. Yeah, I do remember that. That's a long time ago.
Yeah, it's been a little bit.
Alan Wake.
Alan
Wake.
Wake.
See, I've never played any of these video games.
Oh man,
I was around when the first video game came out. Pong. Have you ever heard of Pong?
Yeah.
This is 1967, 68. Magnavox came out with this video game. You played it on your TV, and you had 2 controllers, but they had wires going to the thing. and all it was it was tennis. And on the right side of the screen, you'd move your paddle, the little notch that would be your paddle. You move it up and down, bing, and it going over the net.
And then they would have that later on, because that, they never had a copyright, Magnavox.
Really?
Pong. So several other systems made a Pong like type game. And
really?
some of them would say 80 games or 50 games in one, and it was all different variations of Pong. And I remember one had static cling like screen stickers you could put over your TV. So one was like a maze, and one was like a tank combat, but you just had to dodge you could do whatever you wanted, but you could you had to keep your little light like in between the lights, between the lines.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And there was a screen you put up to play to turn it into hockey. Same game.
Right.
Yep. It was hockey.
It had like 2 goals. It was green, and you could just barely see the light in between it.
Man.
That's great.
But that was like I was at that time. I was 20 years old. That was the greatest thing. Look at this. You'd have parties. People come over and say, "I want to play. I want to."
Oh man.
But the current crop, I haven't played video games in a long time. My son plays them, and my grandkids now, of course, play. In fact, my grandson sent me a thing from California the other day, a screenshot he took on the TV. He finally got to the level of Red Dead where my guy shows up, and he took a screenshot. He said, "Grandpa, I found you." Because you can't. You guys know you can't. I remember the first video game, I think it was Grand Theft Auto 4 or 5, and my son was playing it. I came and I said, "Tanner," I said, "Great, go to the part that I'm on." He says, "You can't do that." I said, "What?" He said,
Just fast forward it,
"Dad, listen carefully, Dad. You have to get to the part where that is. You can't just go to it, right?" So that's when I said, "The hell with it. I'll record them, but I'm not going to try to play."
You were a radio announcer.
Radio announcer.
Grand Theft Auto. So
Yes,
you
I
had to be
was.
driving around in a car, right? Isn't that how?
Oh, that one, yes, yeah.
So you just changed the station, and you may run into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, in Grand Theft Auto, he was I think a call in. I think he took calls because my son Tanner, they hired him to do one or two of the people who called in to the show.
Oh, really?
I was
Cool.
hosting. He loved that.
Nice. Hey, QA, what you got to say?
A burning question for me would be: you've done a lot of awesome roles, both radio and with TV. What would be one role that you would say is you're most proud of?
Wow, that's a tough question. It's a good question. No, it is. I've done a million things. Proud of, well, I think probably Lion-O, because more people know of Lion-O, and I get more email about Lion-O, a lot of bluegrass fans. But here's here's the thing about those two in terms of being proud of. I'm proud of the fact that the shows have become iconic. Whoever knew? When you're recording something, you don't know if it's going to. People always ask me, "Did you know it was going to be a big hit?" There's no way you can know that. Whether you're making a film, a movie, or a Broadway show or something, you could have the best talent in the world, the best writing, the best music, which I think we had on. We saw early. We being those of us in the cast and the crew. We started reading the scripts and we thought, this is well written. It's a cartoon show, but this is well written, the plots and everything. And then we saw the animation and we thought, oh man. And then we heard the music, because we assumed it was going to be the cartoon music, and here they come on with thunder. Or is it
So
Hear
cool.
the Thunder? Well, it's one of the. But that was the first time. I mean, that must have blown kids off their seats when they first tuned the show.
Still does.
I have to say it did.
It did.
Yeah.
Before that, it was always, "It's time. Here come the Winky Dinks." Whatever the show.
We're the Thundercats. Yeah.
Yeah. Even when I hear it now, I still get like chills. Just like when you first see the sequence the emblem showing up, and then you see Lionel, you're just like, oh my gosh, I still get chills every time.
It blings up on the screen, and then it's close up in his eye, and then it comes out, and
it's just so perfect.
It's one of the best like intros for a cartoon, for that like 30 seconds to introduce all the characters. It was like the visuals, the audio, everything.
Yeah,
it's like the best.
Yeah, it really came together. And I'll tell you, the first time when I really knew the show was a hit, like I said, you don't know recording it. I mean, you can all sit around again and say, you know, this sounds good. This really looks good. But for whatever reason, it may not be it. The network might not promote it well enough. You know what I mean? They might put it in a shitty time slot or something like that. And it didn't. And so it became big. But when 2 weeks before Christmas, and it must have been 86, because I think the show came on in 85, didn't it?
Yeah, it was 85.
Yeah.
85, yeah, because we started recording it in late 84. And it came on, you know, and it's okay, and it's doing pretty well. Then they ordered another 13 weeks, you know, and it's doing well. And then they ordered another year. So we all knew, okay, 2 weeks before Christmas, I was at Toys R Us. Remember Toys R Us?
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
Oh, and it wasn't that long ago. I couldn't believe that. But I was there, and I had been there a couple weeks. I had been there a couple weeks before, and I remember there was a Thundercats section. You know, it was one aisle, and then this and that, and then you had 3 aisles, 3 rows of He-Man or whatever, you know, and then 3 aisles of. This day I walk in, and it's boom. Half the building is Thundercats stuff, you know, everywhere. And I said, "Wow, I think the show is a hit." And you may have read this. I talked about this in interviews before. As I'm walking through, there are 2 little boys, probably 7 to 10, I don't know, in the Thundercats section, and they look at me, and one of them saying, "I'm going to get Tiger. He's the coolest one." I got to slow down. Kid says, "No, man, Panthro. Panthro's so cool, you know, with the nunchuck." I couldn't help myself. I said, "Hey guys, why don't you get Lionel? You know, he's the guy who says, 'Thundercats, ho!'" Look at me like, who is this old man? What is this? I kind of laughed. I walked away. As I'm walking away, I can hear one kid says to the other, "He didn't even sound like Lionel." And I thought to myself,
"Oh, so great!
If you only knew, you'd piss your pants if you only knew."
That's so great.
That was great. That's when I knew it was a big hit. Guys, can we have maybe 1 or 2 more questions? Because
I'm sure Tari X has a question or 2.
Yeah, this will be a short one. You've done radio, you've done commercials, cartoons, video games. Who's your favorite character that you voiced for?
I think somebody asked me that a couple of minutes ago, and I thought I had cleverly avoided it. I think Sonny is the most fun to do. You know, Lionel, first of all, is just my voice. It's not a quote cartoon voice. We all did. You know, there were 5 of us in the cast of Thundercats, and we did every voice you hear on 130 episodes. So we each did. First of all, we started out each doing a Thundercat and a mutant. I was Lion-O and Jackal Man.
Okay. Yeah.
And now that I mentioned that, that might have been my favorite voice to do, because they told us your Thundercat voice, Lion-O, Tiger, should just be your regular voice. We don't want them to be cartoony, right? The mutants you can go crazy with, you know. And so I'm thinking Jackal Man. Let's see. You think of Jackal as sneaky, at least I do, sneaky, wily, you know, kind of. And then in the back of my mind, I remembered one of my favorite cartoon shows when I was a kid was The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that.
Oh, yeah.
There was a character, Rocky Bullwinkle. Yeah. There was a character, Snidely Whiplash, who was the penultimate villain. He had the black hat and the mustache, you know, and he was going, "Hello now, I'm going to tie you up to the railroad track." So I kind of put that sneaky, came up with, "We must get the Thundercats." Yes. That was fun to do. That was a lot of fun to do.
That's cool.
That's
Good,
great.
cool, man. I always liked the voice of the mutants. Like all of them really had like really unique voices. And that's cool. I didn't know you guys did that. I didn't know you guys like swapped off. So you were the Thundercats and you were. That's really cool.
Yeah,
Really
it
cool.
was all. As we got further and further into the show, and they started adding more characters, you know, the Rober Burbles and whatever the were, and
Luna.
they brought in a couple more people. Yeah, Jerry and Raphael they brought in to do Chilla and I think Luna and stuff like that. And Jim Meskimen they brought in to do Jim Meskimen, whose mother was Mrs. Cunningham on Happy Days. You remember?
Oh wow.
Oh yeah.
Miriam.
Yeah, yeah.
Cunningham.
Huh.
Anyway, I don't know why I mentioned that, but
That's
for the
interesting.
most part, yeah. Well, see, that's
interesting
the
to
thing
know.
about this. The thing about this business, you know, one of the things I love so much is I meet people from, you know, your uncle was Orson Welles. I didn't know, you know.
I know, right?
From our town.
The first time that ever happened to me when I got to New York was I was doing a commercial with a guy named Brian Carney. We went down and had a drink afterwards and we're chatting and all this kind of stuff. And he says he got a phone call. And actually at the time he got his beeper went off. You ever hear a beeper?
Oh yeah. I had, had a beeper.
So he says, "Oh, it's my dad's number. I'll have to call him." He's telling me the story about it. He says, "Whenever I call my dad, oh, you know what, guys? I messed up the story. I don't know if it makes a difference, but we were at an audition and waiting to go in. And I walk in and he's on the phone and he's going, Dad, it's me, Brian." And he looks at me, goes, and he says, "My dad, he's got to go put his hearing aids in." So he finishes the conversation, comes over to me and he says, "I'm sorry, Larry." He says, "My dad, he won't wear those damn hearing aids. He refuses to believe he needs it. But when we call him, once he knows it's me, he'll go put them in so we can have a conversation." And he said it pisses me off because he says he's been wearing them. Well, he's been wearing them ever since they did the show, you know. At this point, I had known Brian 10 years.
Yeah.
Just in the business. And he says he's been wearing them ever since they did the show. And I said, "What show?" He said, "Oh, I'm sorry." This tells you a lot about Brian. He didn't say, "Are you kidding?" He said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I should have told you. My dad was on a show called The Honeymooner, Art Carney."
Wow.
Are you kidding me? As I'm looking at a guy who is Art Carney when he was 32, you know, he looks exactly
Oh
like.
my gosh.
I never knew that. And I always tell people, let me tell you something about Brian Carney. I knew this, and everybody else in the business says, me too. I never knew that his father was Art Carney. He didn't walk around saying, "You know who my father is," right? You know, and I've always admired that about him.
I wonder if Carrie gets asked the same questions. Carrie Kenney. Do you guys know that Carrie Kenney is Larry's father? Carrie Kenney,
I would have never thought about that.
And
We've never thought of that.
the state.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, that's another show, right? Another podcast.
Yeah, yeah. Put that up, Mr. Switch. We need to make that happen, right?
Yeah, we'll do the best we can. We're cutting it close right now, guys. We do gotta finish up. I just got one fast one so that way we can wrap up. And that one is, can you actually do your famous line from Thundercats?
There are several. Which one would you like?
The one from the intro,
ending, right?
the main intro piece of Thundercats.
You got it. You got it. Shall I do it right now?
Take your time.
This is great.
I have to be careful I don't start too high. Thunder, 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 Thundercats. Ho!
That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's
thank
awesome.
You.
That was great.
Thank
That
you
is
for
awesome.
that.
That's my
Oh
face.
God.
Literally, that is my childhood right there.
Yeah,
I promised
that's
myself I
awesome.
wasn't going to geek out in this episode.
That'd be
Glasses,
great.
I'm actually crying right now.
I've enjoyed it, guys. Thank
Oh,
you so,
man.
so much.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Thank
much,
you.
Larry.
Yeah.
It's been so awesome.
Okay.
Thanks for being
Thank
here.
Good luck to you. Stay well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you,
Stay
Larry.
well, everybody.
Uh,
Thank you very
thank
much,
you.
Larry.
Good night.
Bye.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for episode 42 of the Gamers Realm podcast. Thanks to Larry. He was awesome, wasn't he, guys?
Yes, he
Yeah,
was.
that's
Yes, he was.
So cool.
Everything I wanted him to be, and so much more. But thanks to Atari X QA for being here today.
Thank
Katetsu,
you guys for having me.
Chuki, and as always, Mr.
As-
Switch.
As always.
And I'm Awake and Bacon, and we will see you next time.
Take care, everybody.
You guys
Bye,
have a
guys.
good night.
Peace.
Actually, I gotta say one last thing.
Uh-oh.
Oh, go ahead.
Tomorrow is our Friday, our final episode of the year, episode 43. We're gonna have John Stalker, and he's the voice of Toad from the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, and he's also done a lot of other great works. He was voice director of Sailor Moon. He was with us before, so tomorrow's gonna be our like holiday greetings special podcast, and we're gonna have a lot more people with us. So the guys here, QA, if you're able to, it's up to you. I know you're
I'll
busy.
definitely try to make it. Yeah.
And
I'll
then
try.
we'll have a lot of other people who've been on previously before. They're gonna join us for tomorrow's special podcast. So it's gonna be a nice one to finish off the year, and I think it'll be exciting for us. So it'll be definitely entertaining, and we'll see you guys then.
All
All
right.
right.
See you guys in the
Right.
next one.
Here.
See you guys. See ya.
Okay, we are off the air.
All
Cool,
right.
cool.
Woo!